This week on Saturday Shop Tour, creative technologist John Kuiphoff takes us on a tour of his shop and gives us a live demo of his laser cutter, CNC, and 3D printer. You do not want to miss this one. Let's get started. Also, don't miss John's solar radiation data visualization prototype toward the end of this video.
All right, good morning everybody. Thanks for having me today and welcome to my shop. So I'm living I'm very lucky to have this shop and living where I'm living. So I'm on the Delaware River on the New Jersey side. I know some of you also live kind of close to there. But to give you an idea of where my shop is, it's kind of in the middle of a residential street. And there's an aerial view. That's my van. The van is just as much part of my shop as my shop. And that's where I am. So it's a refurbished one-car garage. I did all the refurbished stuff myself, the drywall, everything, the fencing, before you ask, that's old, these closets back here, that's from old fencing and cutoffs. We live in a very small house. So one of those closets is tools and lumber and fun stuff. And the other stuff is like, you know, stuff like Christmas decorations and things that aren't going to be on the tour. So that first shot you saw, that's like the beauty shot of the shop. But a real shop never looks quite like that. Like a shop is meant to be lived in. And so I'm in here a lot, especially with COVID, because our house is small. My wife is a teacher, so she does her Zoom stuff in here. I got my Zoom stuff in here. And so here's a live feed of the whole room. And you'll see that my table saw is now also my desk. So every time I need to cut something, I got to take everything off, make a cut, and put it back on. But that's, in a lot of ways, that's very representative of what kind of stuff that I do. So I do a lot of things with woodworking. I do a lot with creative coding, a lot with electronics, digital fabrication, projection mapping. I'm investing in like full-on like film studio stuff. I'm starting a YouTube channel. And so what I like to do is I like to take all these different things and mix them all together in really interesting ways. And so that's what this place is all about. This is my happiest place on earth right now. And I'm sharing it with you guys this morning, which makes me very happy. To give you like a really quick tour of the shop, I'm going to start with some of the woodworking tools. So yes, it's a woodworking tool shop. I have like my miter saws and I have my band saws and a bunch of other tools. The drum sander comes very handy, a little expensive for what it does, but it's wonderful. A very inexpensive routing table. The most amazing table saw on the planet, a planer. I really love old tools if they're not complicated. So this jointer and the drill press, I just love old tools, but I won't buy old tools that are like precision based because I don't know how to fix them. Not really. So, so that's kind of the traditional woodworking area. And that's kind of where I started. The way I got into this, I was a web developer for 12 years and I was coding. I was like a machine gun for 12 years, just writing code, making apps. And then literally one night, I just stopped. And I don't know, maybe it was burnout, but I got tired of being in front of the computer. So I took the money from one of the freelance jobs that I did and I started buying woodworking just to get away from the computer. But then computers found their way back into the wood shop. And so that's kind of where we are. So I actually want to spend most of the tour today talking a little bit about some of the digital fabrication tools, specifically the Glowforge. And I know, Carl, your wife has one. The CNC machine, the ShopBot's a really nice machine, and the 3D printer. So those are the three things. If you're starting in digital fabrication, those are the three tools that people usually learn first. And they usually learn the laser first because that's the easiest thing to wrap your head around. So if you have any design skills whatsoever in Adobe Illustrator, Cameo, Silhouette Studio, the laser cutter is probably the easiest place to start. So what I thought I'd do is just to show you some laser cut samples real quick. So the laser cutter is this machine that it has motors. They move this way and there's a laser beam at the end, and it can cut through wood, acrylic, fabric, like different kinds of foam. It can engrave on stone and rock. So let me show you a couple of samples real quick. I'm gonna go to my overhead camera. So here's like a piece of mahogany versus, whoops, let me see if I can make that. That's not focusing, there it goes. Agate, even like ultra suede felt. You know what, I have a better, this isn't really focusing. I'm gonna show you, I'll just talk through a video. That probably makes more sense. So we have all different kinds of wood, and so I made a video where I test out every single material. Because usually people get into laser cutting, they only cut wood or acrylic. So these are all the wood and paper samples. Now we're getting into all kinds of metal. There's like a little spray, a Surmark spray that you need, but engraves beautifully on metal. These are different kinds of plastics, even 3D printed material. Now we're into different kinds of stone. Now we're into rock. The agate was my favorite. We can do leather, and then all different kinds of fabric. And a couple of extras too, so you'll see coming up. Even like bone and toast. The toast tastes terrible. You don't want to eat it after that. It really is that bad. So what I think I'll do, I'm just going to run a quick demo showing you just what what it does. I'm going to have to move this room cam over there over to the laser. I had multiple cameras set up, and technology wasn't on my side early this morning, so I'm going to just have to move that camera over there. So I'll be right back. Oh, probably looks so weird. So here's a laser. Let me see if I can set this up. And so inside it, I have a piece of wood there. It's a piece of red oak. And I'm gonna hit the button. Oh, we gotta turn the vent on first. And what this vent will do is it'll take any fumes and it'll bring it outside. All right, so let's start to run this. That's going to take about 3 minutes. So in about 2 minutes, you'll see something probably worth seeing. But right now, the laser beam is like basically pulverizing through that first little bit of material. It always does the engraving first, and then it'll cut around the whole object. And it's really great. I do a lot of work for a sign company, product design companies. I sell lots of things. I was selling maps at first. I do a lot of product design and development. I'll prototype furniture design. So all my rapid prototyping also happens on the laser cutter. I'll show you this project in a little bit. But here's a good example. So remind me to talk about this a little bit later. So this is a prototype of something I did on a laser that eventually will be much bigger and out of really nice materials. So I'm also going to show you really quickly the Glowforge software so you can sort of see what's happening. I should be able to do a screen share. I'm assuming you see that. So it's printing. So I'm going to go back to the Glowforge cam to see how we're doing.
It's a great logo.
Yeah, it's a good logo. So we're about halfway there. So it's a pretty slow machine, especially if you're engraving. But when you cut, it goes really quickly. And red oak, weirdly enough, is a terrible. It's not very good to engrave on. I didn't yet, but that's what we're trying to do. So any quick questions? Does anybody else own a laser? Anybody else here own a laser? Not yet. It's probably the most expressive machine that I have here. It's like the thing that if I could only keep one tool in this entire shop, well, it would be a toss-up between the laser and the CNC. But the laser is just so much fun. You could even draw a picture, put it in the laser, and it will cut and engrave it out for you. So if you don't have any technical skills at all, it's just so easy to get started. So let me look at one more time. Let's see how it's doing. I want you guys to at least see the cut part because that's the most fun. It's almost there, so I'll switch cameras. All right, there we go. And then what you do is you peel off this paper backing, and you'll get something that's takes a little bit. It smells like a campfire in here now.
Yeah, I love that smell.
Yeah. So let's see if I can show you there. So yep, there it is. There's just a little piece right there. I'm just going to turn off the ventilation because it's a little bit loud in here. So give me 1 second. So I forgot to mention I'm a teacher at the College of New Jersey, and when I decided to stop making web apps, I started making a makerspace. I established a makerspace, and one of the first tools we got was a laser cutter, and it was a way for young adults, to work with not only their minds but their hands. And a lot of people, when we start these classes, we do a little bit of fabrication, a little bit of woodworking. I asked them, like, how many people have ever used a drill before? And the answer is usually maybe 1 out of 5 have ever even handled like a cordless drill. And I've even had parents multiple times saying their kids aren't allowed to take my class because they went to school to use their minds, not their hands. Which, if you know anything about me now, that means I'm on a mission to make sure that every student that walks through that door learns something about welding, something about woodworking, something about that feeling of using your mind, your hands, and your spirit to make something out of nothing, something that exists beyond the screen. So that's kind of my mission at the college, is to give students that experience. And there was one student who came up to me, and it was a welding class, and he says, at the end of the class, he goes, I have a big fancy job at Wall Street, but I have to say, welding is the first thing I've ever loved. I don't even want to work the job. I just want to be a welder. And he was in that lab every single day of the semester, even though it was only like a 4-day workshop. So there's something that sparks in some students when they use their hands to build something. And for me, I like that much better than like sitting in a cubicle all day. I've had that life too. So, and I'm starting a YouTube channel with the same reason. So instead of like educating 16 people at a time, maybe you can influence somebody that may be a little bit out of your reach. So I know there probably won't be time at the end, but I'm investing in a full-on, whoops, wrong one. Oh, no, that was the right camera. I'm investing, as you can see, I have like a big fancy light and cameras, so I'm starting a YouTube channel. Would it make sense for me to show you what a CNC does? That's a pretty quick one.
Yeah, I think that's great, John.
All right.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yep, I have it all set up already. I'm gonna just move the camera over there, and we'll check it out. I gotta get earphones for this one though. There we go. So it cuts out shapes like this, but you could also do full-on 3D work. If you want to cut yourself like an electric guitar body, all you really have to do is draw it on the screen and tell which parts to be pockets and which parts to do the outline. And literally in about 20 minutes, you'll be able to walk out with an electric guitar body. All you got to do is design it. So it's also a really cool machine, and it's got all kinds of different bits. So it's a little more complicated than a laser cutter because you have to worry about what kind of bits. Come on, camera. This camera's a little blurry today. There it goes. Those are a couple types of bits. So I do a lot of signs in the area, a real lot of signs. In fact, between the laser cutter and the CNC machine, those two tools outfitted this entire shop. So none of this has ever come from my own personal work money. This is always, the tools definitely pay for themselves and everything else. And then lastly, just to give you the full three, I'm going to switch cameras over and show you the 3D printer real quickly. So right there, I'm actually 3D printing a bunch of face shields. So that printer's been going nonstop since COVID started. We're creating face shields for anybody who wants them. So if anybody needs them, we're making a lot of face shields. On the laser cutter, we're making ear savers. On the CNC machine, I think I spent all last week creating the social barrier, social distancing barriers. So it's been really great in that community too, just because there's so much that needs to be made in a very short amount of time that anybody who has a shop right now has been basically coming together and just volunteering their time to make whatever they can. And you can do it because otherwise the machines are just sitting idle. So if they're just sitting idle, there's no reason to not make some of that stuff. So I think,
John, I have a question for you. The file format that you use for those three tools, is it all the same? Is it SVG or what is it?
They're usually DXF, because in Illustrator, now we're talking real technical, but SVG sometimes scale it by 20%. Okay. And I learned that the hard way. I messed up permits for somebody. It was horrible. But that's how you learn sometimes. Yeah, right. There are days where why do I do this? I really messed up because I use an SVG instead of a DXF. But I do most of the work in Illustrator. But you can also use something like Fusion 360 once you get into the 3D stuff. So Fusion 360 is a little bit like Illustrator, just you have a third dimension to play with. And a lot of the students take to it because when you learn how to model things in 3D, you can make video game characters. I use Fusion for everything, even we were just getting we're thinking about redoing our kitchen. So I'll model the whole kitchen in 3D and so you can actually see it. We'll put on the virtual reality goggles and everything. Yeah. So
very cool.
I'm going to show you real quick and then I want some more questions. I think it's, is it screen share? Yep. I was going to show you a little bit of my work. So I talked about the machines. Let me make sure you guys can actually see that. Yep, you can. So on my Instagram, you'll see a little bit of what I do. So experimenting with electronics, resin pours. I do some kayaking too on the Delaware River, working in film. That's just working on some of those ear savers. So a lot of what I do, that's projection mapping, which is really fun, combining physical things with light. I made these clouds that had the smart film on there. Those are Magic Leap glasses. I built a bar for my friend. So I'm kind of all over the place. I kind of just build all kinds of crazy stuff all the time. So it's always curious.
Yeah.
So anybody have any questions?
I'm going to take the spotlight off so we can see some questions here.
Absolutely. Thanks.
What's the name of the course that you teach?
I teach digital fabrication. That's the main one. That's like learning how to use your hands to make something 101. So it's a little bit of woodworking, a little bit of design, fabrication, and also the maker community and being resourceful. As a professor, I teach digital fabrication, product design, creative coding, digital data visualization, electronics. But the courses are never really those things. When you're teaching fabrication, you're teaching the tools, but you're teaching students how to be resourceful, how to appreciate how to appreciate the things around them and how they're made. And when you make something yourself, you appreciate that more. And when you can design something yourself, rather than just going the throw-out culture, going to Amazon, well, maybe we can 3D print a part that's made specifically for you, or instead of buying a gift on Amazon for somebody else, make it. It means so much more. So that's what that class is really about. Yeah.
John, when you were using the Glowforge,
yes,
it has a barcode. Is the machine reading any instruction from that?
The barcode is very helpful because it tells the Glowforge exactly which material's in the machine, and so you don't have to do any of your own settings. So for a lot of the materials that I showed earlier, I had to figure out the settings myself, like when I was doing felt, because there's no barcode on that. So it's designed, the Glowforge is designed for kids and teachers and people very new to laser cutting, because it takes a lot of the scary stuff away, at least in the beginning. So they can just think about making jewelry or making artwork or making whatever they want to make without having to worry about all the settings of the material and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think, Susan, you were asking about the data visualization, correct?
Oh, yeah. Let me show you that, because this is important. So this data visualization right here. So this was made in code. So this is the amount of solar radiation over my house at any given time during the day. And so solar companies will use it, but basically you write some code and it spits out a number. You can say, in this geolocation at this exact time, how much units of solar radiation are there? And it just gives you a number. But once I was able to figure that out, I wrote a ton more code to figure out the solar radiation at any given time. And then what I wound up doing is writing more code to turn those into shapes. And so what you'll start to see is these are the hours, these are the months. And so if it's August and it's early in the morning, that's how much sun radiation is over my garage at this exact amount of time. And so I started doing models from all around the world. I'll show you Iceland because it's a lot different.
So cool.
Iceland is primarily dark in the wintertime, but in the summertime, it's almost completely light. So it's really interesting to be able to see the data and hold it in your hand in a way that you can't get from a spreadsheet. Now, these are just prototypes. The final ones are going to be enormous. They're full of electronics and different materials and plastics, and there's like timing circuits and a red burl that acts as the sun, all kinds of metalwork in there. So these are just prototypes just to see if the math and the concepts and the algorithms are correct. And once they are, and I can test them, then you can spend like $800 worth of materials making something that's beautiful to look at. So, and I wrote software that anybody else could create their own too. So you just type in your geolocation and it'll just spit out all the shapes that if you had a Glowforge, you can make your own solar lamps or at least your own little sculptures.
Very cool.
Thank you. That's fun. That's a cool time to be alive, to be able to do this, like in your garage. I mean, that's insane. Because just a few years ago, this stuff was so expensive, it was unattainable. The Glowforge, that was $2,500. I mean, it's still pricey, but it's not prohibitively expensive. Like if you dreamed of having a Glowforge, I think if you worked hard enough someday, you'd have one. Yeah. The CNC was a little more expensive.
John, I know we talked a little bit about the sign making side of this. You said you've actually been able to turn some of that away, but that could keep you pretty occupied most days, correct?
I calculated it. If I could quit my full-time job very easily and make more money in my working alone in my garage. Erica, you gotta close your ears.
I see Erica shaking her head.
I've done the math, but I enjoy teaching. And there's value in that, and that you don't get from when you're just like churning out client work. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's very lucrative.
If you had to, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. If I had to, absolutely.
That's great.
And all this, the programming, when you can combine two things together, you put yourself in a spot like where you can solve problems maybe other people can't. So that's why I work with a lot of product design companies for problem solving, because I can work in software and hardware and actually fabricate the boxes and write code and you know what I mean, and work on servers, so and do design. So it's nice to be able to combine those aspects together.
Yeah, John, can you real quick tell us about NextFab for the larger stuff?
Yes. So I was just getting into woodworking, going through my little midlife crisis or whatever. And there's a journalist, Kathleen Weber, who's said to me, she works at the college, because you should go to this place called NextFab in Philly. So there's a lot of people who do the same kinds of stuff that you're doing. And so I went, and that night changed my life. I went there and I was like, this is like, there's no going back now. So you walk into NextFab, and there's 3 locations, but you walk into NextFab and there's just people working on all kinds of stuff using the same machines that I showed here, but at a much larger scale. So for $50 a month, I could use a water jet cutter that was larger than my garage to cut metal that was 2 inches thick if I wanted to. And their classes were only $29 each for the most part. I paid $130,000 for grad school and learned just as much at NextFab, paying probably less than like a couple $100. You know what I mean? It's people making, there's guitar makers, cabinet makers, there's designers, there's engineers, there's people making like aerospace stuff, there's photo booths and I mean, there's every facility you could ever dream of having. And there's incubators there and businesses, and Comcast is working there. And you're just talking to all these people. You're having lunch with people that make all different kinds of stuff. A lot of like what you're doing on the shop tour, but that's just in a physical space where everyone has unlimited access to any tool they ever imagined.
Awesome.
With all the help. Yeah, that's a great place.
Yeah.
I miss it. I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, John, thank you. This was really amazing. I appreciate your time, the effort you put into this. It's pretty awesome. So,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
thank you. And for everyone else, have a great weekend. Next week, we're going to take you almost 200 miles off grid into the Alaskan wilderness to show you a shop and a retreat lodge up there. So, have a great weekend. See you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
See you,
John.
Carl. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing. We feature a new maker shop tour every Saturday.